We've been following the story of the flotilla headed to Gaza that ended up with 9 dead as Israel blocked the ship's passage. This isn't the first flotilla that the Free Gaza movement have attempted to send to Gaza. Cynthia McKinney, former congresswoman and presidential candidate, was on a flotilla last year. She joins me now live to help discuss all the latest on the incident. Cynthia, first of all, I want to ask you, as a former congresswoman, what is your reaction to the response from your former colleagues? The United States has blocked Turkey's proposal at the UN and seems to be standing by their ally here. Steny Hoyer just said that the United States will work to prevent any condemnation of Israel at the UN Security Council. What's your take on their response?
Well, it's a typical response that's bought and paid for by the pro-Israel lobby. And it's a sad fact that the people of the United States don't have true representation when it comes to their values versus the values of the pro-Israel lobby. They bought the executive branch, they bought the legislative branch, and unfortunately, we get these kinds of comments from one of the highest elected leaders in our country.
And obviously, you know, the Israelis have their own point of view when it comes to this whole incident. Let's take a listen to what the Israeli ambassador to the United States said about this whole situation.
Israel acted in accord with international law, under international law. Any state has the right to protect itself, certainly from a terrorist threat such as Hamas, including on the open seas. The United States operated under similar international law when it fought the Germans, the Japanese in World War II and stopped their boats on the open seas.
So obviously there we have Dr. Michael Oren kind of defending what the Israelis did when it came to this raid. What do you think needs to happen at this point? The UN has said that it will have an international unbiased commission investigate the incident. Israel says they'll investigate it themselves. Do you think there should be stronger action against Israel? And specifically, what would you like to see the United States doing or saying to them?
Well, first of all, let's just set the record clear. What Israel engaged in on the day that we celebrate as Memorial Day, where we salute those of our soldiers who have fallen in the wars of our country, what Israel engaged in was a crime against the people of Turkey, an international crime, committing an act of piracy, massacring people, which is murder, and kidnapping people. I've been subjected to Israeli piracy. I was subjected to Israeli kidnapping, and I spent 7 days in an Israeli prison only because I wanted the children of Gaza to be able to have coloring books and crayons and art paper and to have a normal kind of school year like everyone else has for their children. That was too much for the Israeli state. And in fact, Israel said that what we did constituted a threat to its existence. And what I suggest is that if Israel is threatened by olive trees and cement and medical supplies, wheelchairs and school supplies, then Israel is a failed state. Israel is also a nuclear state. It was just last week that we got proof positive in the form of declassified documents from the apartheid era, declassified by the new government of the Republic of South Africa, that showed that Israel was willing to sell nuclear weapons to apartheid South Africa in a document signed by Shimon Peres and P.W. Botha. So what Israel says and what Israel does are two different things. And now what we need is an end to impunity, because we know that the European countries, as well as the United States and certain corporations, are all a part of the problem, because they allow Israel to commit these crimes over and over and over again. With the President Obama, and the Congress just giving an additional $205 million to the Israeli military for their missile defense.
And Cynthia, I want to take a step back for a moment. You know, given all of what you just mentioned and this latest incident with the flotilla, there's been speculation that perhaps all of this could lead to a World War III between the world and Israel. I mean, do you think that's a real possibility? And if it is, how will the United States fit into that scenario?
Well, of course, we have seen that Turkey invoked a meeting of the United Nations Security Council. And it's my understanding that Turkey has also requested a meeting at the ministerial level of the NATO member states. Now, this is very interesting because, as we all know, NATO is a collective security arrangement, which means that an attack on one member is to be construed as an attack against all of the members. This treaty requires the United States to come to the defense of Turkey. And so now we will see the kind of dance that the elected officials in the United States will orchestrate as they tiptoe around the NATO requirements and their political obligations as it relates to the pro-Israel lobby.
Well, Cynthia McKinney, former U.S. presidential candidate and Congresswoman, it's great to hear your point of view about this whole incident.